Some pretty strong comments, and Woj is back with us here. Woj, what has been the fallout in Boston after those remarks?
Greeny, when Boston traveled yesterday to Orlando, I'm told, they had a players-only meeting. And Marcus Smart, Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they did talk about, the collapse against the Bulls and Marcus Smart's comments after the game about those two not passing the ball. I'm told it was emotional at times, but in the end, perhaps not a terribly productive meeting, maybe not even beneficial. Listen, these are issues with this team and this group that have been going on for a while. They changed the president in Boston. They changed the head coach. These issues remain. And now at 2-5 and playing the Magic tonight, Ime Udoka, the first-year Boston head coach, this is a situation that he has to address and help this team work through the way that Brad Stevens and it haunted his regime, especially near the end last season.
Wow, that does not sound promising, Woj. Outstanding. Thank you. Let me come to the player in our group, and that's Jalen Rose. Jalen, directly, do you have any issue with Marcus Smart saying things as directly and publicly as he did?
I love Marcus Smart, but you can't do this, fam, because players make mistakes all of the time. And if we're going to break down the film, I can show you Michael Jordan loafing on plays and getting scored on and not being successful out there on the floor. The strength of Jayson Tatum's game is his offense. Jaylen Brown is actually a terrific two-way player. And by the way, Marcus Smart is actually their best player. And you ready for this? Their point guard. So if they're going to give up the ball, right, you got to be able to make shots. Don't call out your teammates publicly, especially early in the year.
Stephen A.
I disagree with Jaylen on this particular point, and I don't like it. I say so respectfully. The only reason I disagree with him is because this is Marcus Smart, who's been in this league long enough, who has never done that. So I think I'm looking for people to say, why on earth would he choose to do this now? It's completely uncharacteristic. It's not something I've ever done before. And my point is this. The only thing I want to say, I'll come back to you, and I'll say this. What I really don't like is that this problem existed under the Brad Stevens regime. I like Brad Stevens. But how does that problem exist under your regime? Your team underachieved because of it. And you elevate from the coach to the president of basketball operations. Only in America. Only in America.
Listen, you got the issue of whether or not he should have done this in the locker room first. Perhaps he did and nobody listened. But I get that, Jaylen, about whether or not it's public. Here's my issue. This was not a hot take. This was not a rant off the. This was clinical. He sounded like a 10-year veteran head coach, which means I suspect, if not in the locker room, on the court, he had done it. But here's the deal. What are the Celtics going to do to fix what Marcus Smart called out? Because that's a very real thing.
I'm going to tell you what he sound like. Okay. He sound like somebody that said that before off the record, that's now saying it on the record. Yeah. And here's why he's saying it, Stephen A. Because the Boston Celtics, and I'll bring in the Sixers with this as well. Okay. Those two teams 3 or 4 years ago, we felt like they were knocking on the door to get to the finals. And then the East just got better. Toronto won it. Miami won it. The Bucks won the championship. The Nets got a big 3. And now Boston and the Sixers are lower in the East. That's the frustration.
I only disagree with one point that Jaylen made. He said this is something he said off the record. I'd go a step further. I think he said it in the locker room.
Correct.
I think he said it to them. I think he said it to. I think he said it to those players, and they weren't listening. So he called them out.
The bottom line is, when you've got a problem and you have a team meeting and it doesn't seem to solve anything, where do you go from there? I think that's fairly unclear for the Celtics.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.